Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Harbor Management Commission of the Town of Fairfield meeting on January 21st, beginning at 4:30, and we have a quorum of the members here, and I expect some others to join us later. Why don't we begin by giving a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll begin by reviewing the minutes of the last meeting, which were sent to you with the agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the minutes?
I think there's one thing to just confirm and clarify. We had an email conversation. I wanted to make clear or clearer in the minutes this specific need to start to use Ye Yacht Yard as the official name. And I thought there was just a little bit of ambiguity that could be removed from the original version. And
you were going to do a motion with specific language.
Right, and I have that language in front of me. The one that you...
Yes.
Which was sent, right?
Which you sent, yes. So Betty created language which was perfect, and which I would like to read to replace the part of my report that dealt with this. And I'll read that out loud.
Okay, I mean,
Or do I need to?
I'm not sure if you need to. If it was sent in advance and we all had a chance to read it.
No.
No, it was not sent in advance.
You didn't?
Minutes were already distributed. They were on the
This
town
change is
clerk.
not, got it.
So that's why it needed to be, that language needs to be in a motion, a formal motion.
Would you please read that? Yes.
Email conversations November 18th and December 9 with Parks and Recreation Director Anthony Calabrese regarding preferred nomenclature for Ye Yacht Yard versus Town Boat Yard. Chairman Hyman stated that he had had concern that this facility has been referred to as both the Town Boat Yard and Ye Yacht Yard. Chairman Hyman contacted the Parks and Recreation Director Anthony Calabrese. Although this facility was formerly referred to as the Town Boat Yard, it is now commonly referred to as Ye Yacht Yard. Following communications with Parks and Recreation Director Anthony Calabrese, Chairman Hyman asked that the Harbor Management Commission follow the request of Mr. Calabrese to refer to this location as Ye Yacht Yard moving forward. Mr. Stedman reported that the facility is referred to as the Town Boat Yard in the Harbor Management Plan and in project documents for the HMC's Lower Wharf Town Boat Yard Improvement Project.
Very good. Is there a motion to accept the minutes amended as stated by Don Hyman?
So moved.
Seconded. Any seconders?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Hey, Chris, at the beginning of the meeting, you should confirm who's in attendance.
Well, we had, yeah, okay. So let me just confirm again.
This is Doug Metchick. Can you hear me on the phone?
Hi, Doug. Thanks for joining. And we had, who else?
It's Brian Leclerc.
Brian Leclerc. And Dave Henry, were you on the call as well?
Yes, sir. Dave Henry here.
So we have a quorum with the members present.
Just confirm who's present here.
Other members present are Don Hyman, Jeff Warren, and myself as commissioners of the Harbor Management Commission. Okay, I'm going to just move on to the chairman's report to comment a little bit on Harbor Management Commission activity in the past. I mean, it just amazes me from my standpoint, seeing the amount of work that all of us do for no remuneration, just simply because of the love we have for the harbor and the activities surrounding it. It is an amazing amount of work, and as a result, we have a vibrant harbor, and things are working really well. I'd like to say a special thanks to Don Hyman as the past chair for his generosity of time and gentle approach to things and getting things moved forward, as well as past chairs like Kim and others who are here from time to time, and all of our members, who put in a great deal amount of time for making this happen. I appreciate all of that, and the minutes to reflect that. So going forward, I will have a lot of respect for your time, having contributed to that. So I'll ask you all to come prepared and to, when you speak, to be as concise and quick as possible, so we all are in respect of each other's time. And I'll do my best to keep things moving along in that respect. Moving on to the next item, is there is a letter sent to the Harbor Road residents prior to the dredging beginning to advise them of what they might expect, and that was received by all of them with no responses at all that I know of. And we'll go on to talk a little bit more about how that's moved on further. But I was also participating in the discussion and coordination for the kickoff meeting with the Corps of Engineers, which was I updated the board, the commission after that meeting. There's a one memorandum point of order on how to operate activities with for all commissions and boards and authorities of the town of Fairfield, and that is if you're having a work session. I mean, as I mentioned here, instructing Fairfield Harbor Management Commission and all other town boards, commissions, and authorities regarding conducting public meeting sessions where no public comment is to be taken. These sessions should be described on the meeting agenda as a work session, and that no public comment is received. It's a point of order on how to conduct meetings. But we all remember the FOIA responsibilities of when any meeting between more than two commissioners take place. It must be a minuted and an agenda, as well as notification to the public in advance. So bear that in mind as we move forward. And Brian Harbormaster, Brian Leclerc, could you give us your update for the team?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Just fine, thank you.
Good, thank you. A couple of things to report on. The first is January 1st, the renewal process began for people both on the waiting list as well as those with moorings. We had a slight glitch with the software on the 1st with regard to people on the mooring waiting list. What happened was some random code was generated when people tried to renew rather than confirmation. A few people thought that meant they should upload registrations, insurance, and safe boating certificates. Unfortunately, when these people on the waiting list did that, they were then notified by the system that they'd been awarded a mooring in the harbor, and they paid the full fee. So I shut the system down quickly when I saw that happened New Year's Day. Tech support was on it right away, corrected it. The two people who did send in the full amount thought they got a mooring were totally understanding and appreciated the explanation. They fixed the system. They don't know why it happened, but it's not happening, and that's under control. Next item, we had a coffee with the harbor master Saturday morning from 9 until noon. A good 50-plus people attended at various times. It was well received. Very positive comments from the members of the public regarding the dredging project and what they were watching. I've been spending a lot of time there, of course, with the dredging. Went out Friday with our first selectman, Kim Taylor, and Congressman Himes on the vessel. I've been talking to them about how the work they're doing, the Army Corps crew. We've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails on a daily basis from people asking questions about the dredging, wanting to know what's going on. But every comment has been positive, including the neighbors on Harbor Road. Everyone is very impressed with what's going on and thankful, and thanks to the Commission for your hard work, what you folks have done to get this done. You should go down there if you happen at nighttime. It's quite spectacular. I know last Friday night I went during the evening, and you would have thought there was a drive-in movie going on in Southport Harbor. The cars were lined up. There was not a spot to be had. People lined up watching the dredging at nighttime, so it was quite fun. The last thing to report is December 26th, I had gone on my daily ride to the harbor, and right across from the Yacht Club on the corner by the fountain, across from the end of Perry Green and the Yacht Club's lawn, I caught a sewer maintenance company beginning to dump a load into the storm sewer on the street, which of course goes directly into Southport Harbor as a storm sewer. So I stopped them just in time. I reported it to DEEP as it was going to be a potential spill situation. We gave them a verbal warning, and I spoke to the management of the company about it. So now they're on DEEP's radar. They apologized, assured us that this will never happen again or anything like this. So we caught them just in the nick of time before they made the dump there. And that's all I have to report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Wow, I'm glad you caught them. And thanks so much for having that coffee on Saturday. I think that was a very well-received event, and I'm amazed that everything is moving so smoothly with no complaints whatsoever. It's amazing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So let's move on to the two sign public safety and risk management sign for the lower wharf. And George Harris, I believe, is not on the call. He said he might be able to dial in.
If George is not on the call, he updated myself and Belinda that he heard from the sign company. The sign has been finished. It's being transported or already has been transported to the Public Works garage and should be installed by DPW shortly. I think there might be an issue with frozen ground. We may have to wait a little bit longer, but we've waited this long. We can wait until the ground is more receptive, but everything is where it's supposed to be.
Thank you very much. Move on to the lower wharf rebuild update. Mr. Stedman?
I talked with Bill Hurley, and they're working to address some comments in the application that were received from the public in the application process, and he's working on that. And then Bill and I will work on the coastal site plan approval that's necessary for it. So we're working on it, and Bill's happy with the way things are going.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Stedman? So we now move on to sort of the centerpiece for today's meeting. I think so much attention is being garnered around the Corps of Engineers dredge project. And Mr. Stedman and Ms. Taylor, could you give us an update?
Well, as you all know, it's happening, and hallelujah, it's happening. The equipment arrived on January 6th, and it was parked over just on the east side of the wall that separates the country club beach from the town beach, and right to the north of it, where the path that the equipment would take to be driven over to the dredge site, there was a porta potty, and right smack dab in the middle. And so I called Betty, and Betty got DPW within an hour or so. The porta potty was moved, so there was clear sailing for the equipment to be taken across the beach to the dredge site. And I mention that only because, number one, the equipment would have had to go over a stone wall, and who knows what would have happened over here in this mushy, marshy area. But two, that the town departments have been really great in helping us with this project. I mean, Betty got the porta potty moved, Betty ordered the signs that engineering and DPW put up, the construction signs, keep out. The town engineering department, especially Scott Lehman, has been down there taking drone pictures at least twice. They've really and helped out the Corps in ways that need to be acknowledged. doing things that certainly none of us could have done. So thank you, Betty.
It was DPW crew. I called them and they were right on it.
They were right on it, and the same thing with getting the construction signs up. So that was January 6th. The equipment arrived January 7th. We had the stakeholders meeting. Right after that stakeholders meeting, it went for about an hour and a half. The crew came out down the Country Club Road and started making sand piles. At the very beginning of that project, though, they, with incredible delicacy, yanked out the invasive plant species and transplanted the panicum grass, which is the last piece of the environmental flora that had to be protected as a condition of the permit from DEEP. So they did that and then started piling sand. The signs went up. The Army Corps of Engineers issued the fact sheet, which I think everybody here has seen. It was also, I know, distributed to the Pequot Yacht Club board and membership. And then on the 16th, the Murden arrived and started shoveling the sand from the pile into its hull and making trips out over to around over here. And Coral told me that there are 10 designated disposal sites. So they're going out and hitting one of those 10 spots, and literally, it's the most amazing thing. The hull, which is the 3/4 of the boat, the hull and the bow opens and the sand drops out, and the Murden backs up, and you see all this turbulence and sand, and it's dropping down to create the basis for a shellfish habitat. And Mr. Carey, who was the head of the Connecticut Bureau of Aquaculture, was there on the 16th, and he's very excited that this is happening. Oyster shells will have to be deposited out there, and any sand that doesn't sort of fall naturally into a bedding position will head towards Southport Beach to nourish that beach. On the 17th, last Friday, Congressman Himes and First Selectman Gerber and the Harbor Master and I went out to view this activity. It's really quite amazing. And I guess the only other thing to note is that on Tuesday nights, Murden will probably disappear to go down to Bridgeport to do a crew change, and she may not be back until Thursday morning, or she may come back late Wednesday night, or she may not leave till Wednesday morning. But Wednesday, we can expect to see no work because it's a crew change day. Some of you might have noticed that yesterday, Sunday, she took off for Saybrook to dump gray water. And the question that we had was not sure why she would go all the way down to Saybrook to do that, but she did, so maybe we'll find out the answer to that. And I guess going forward, the only thing to really note is that there can be no disposal of sand after January 31st, because that's what the permit limits the time in which the work can be done, and January 31st is the last date on which any sand can be disposed of out here on the disposal sites. I think that's it, unless there are any questions.
Are they on track from a pace standpoint? So the 31st isn't in jeopardy at all?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. In fact, I think they thought they were well ahead of schedule.
On the Sasko Beach side of as opposed to looking at things from the yacht club, did they put in orange fencing in that area? I saw signs.
The fencing is, the Corps put up fencing here.
Here, I couldn't see that.
Right after the equipment. It's the orange fencing with the black still fencing behind it. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't see it from. I went to the end of Sasko Beach and I saw the signs and didn't go further.
So the winds have done some damage to that fence. It's taken a beating.
And there were people a little closer than any of us would have liked on Saturday, but that's the only time I've seen folks down there. Everybody else seems to be down. East.
It's Brian. I just had one comment on the schedule. The crew on the land crew worked both on the National Day of Mourning, that Thursday, as well as yesterday, Martin Luther King Day, because they wanted to make sure they weren't going to get delayed by having to take those 2 days off. So they've been, even though they work for the federal government, they worked those 2 days to make sure they can get this done.
I understand on one of their days off, they went into New York City. 3 guys from Mississippi in Manhattan all day. The stories were hilarious.
Did they come and visit?
They visited Dave Kozel, our ground superintendent, and recounted their visit. They got a lot done in an afternoon, but they had some choice comments about life in New York City.
Well, I understand they're expecting the head of the ground crew lives in southern Louisiana, and he's expecting 7 inches of snow at his house as we speak, and he does not own a shovel. So.
Yeah. Yeah, they got it in Houston this morning, but.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Taylor. It was excellent. I think there's, that's the thin veneer of what's been going on, and there's so much more and stories to be told about how this has all come to pass. But I mean, it's a concise report for what's going on, and I think we'll hear a lot more as we move along. Any other questions for Kim or Jeff? All right, let's move on then. Thank you very much. Moves on to the Mooring Committee. Mr. Morin.
So the Mooring Committee met last week for the first time in about a year and a half. We had a harbor master report that was very similar to the harbor master report you just heard. And then we did discuss and review what the origins of the Mooring Committee are and what our purpose is and how to move forward. And so the Mooring Committee, for those who don't know, is established basically by the Harbor Management Plan. And our purpose, as stated in the Harbor Management Plan, is to assist the Harbor Master in all of his duties and responsibilities in regard to moorings in Southport Harbor. The thing that we discussed was how the Harbor Master's job has changed over the past 10 years. 10 years ago, the Harbor Master was preoccupied with a very laborious process of renewing mooring permits by snail mail and receiving letters in the mail and opening checks and keeping handwritten records and so on. And that's kind of been revolutionized by this online mooring system. So his job has really changed dramatically, and hence the Mooring Committee itself has kind of changed its role or responsibility as well. Because for a couple of reasons. One is that the online system has created an enormous amount of transparency in terms of what's going on with the moorings. So whereas the harbor master used to have kind of his own records, and everybody else was kind of kept in the dark, and we had to have frequent meetings to kept abreast of what was going on. Now, anyone with a username and password can go onto the online mooring site and get financial reports and find out every last detail of what's going on with the moorings. So the upshot is that we really don't need as many in-person meetings of the Mooring Committee as we used to. So what I did for this year is I scheduled 4 meetings. We had one last week, and we have one scheduled for March, May, and October. The main reason is that it's a lot in this town. It's a lot easier to set up meetings and cancel them than it is to after the fact set up meetings, because in December, January, all the meeting slots get taken for all the conference rooms. So our plan is to see whether we need to meet in person for the next 2 meetings, March and May. I do want to keep the October meeting. So for this commission, the financials the fiscal year ends at the end of June for the town, but the annual renewal process for the moorings is on a calendar year. However, virtually all the financial transactions for the renewal process are pretty much complete by the end of our fiscal year, so we can use those numbers. So for our October meeting, I'm hoping to put together another report of our expenses and revenues and the running balance of the 102 account so that we can present that for the Harbor Commission meeting in October and use that as a way to review the mooring activity for the year and also the plan for the upcoming year. And I think that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Are there any questions for the mooring committee? Thank you very much. We'll move on now to the Harbor Master Boat request, which is a continued discussion, but I don't believe Mr. Harris, Mr. Baisley, or Mr. Dean are on the phone call right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have more to, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure we have much more to report, or do we?
I don't have anything, unless Brian has something.
There was some data to be gathered by, and I'm not sure if that's been reported, so we'll postpone that to the next meeting unless, Brian, you have anything further to say right now?
I have nothing further. I've given all the info about the request, the job description. I know there was a note to some memo that they had generated that the subcommittee group was working on, but I have nothing further from my end.
All right, I'll just say that we'll have to get this under, faster pace because we want to make sure this is resolved before springtime if something is needed. So I'll speak to those members of that committee between now and the next meeting for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Stebbins, would you update us on the Perry Mill Green bulkhead replacement?
I don't have anything to report. And I assume if there was any problem that we'd learn from the town engineer who I talk with. So I don't know the status of that. I can go down and ask him right now, but I talked with him earlier and he didn't bring anything up as a problem.
Well, it appears to be a completed project with just some landscaping remaining.
I'll confirm that, yeah.
So, I mean, I'll tell you what else I'll do is, unless I hear from you otherwise, I'll remove this from future agenda items.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's Brian LeClaire. I can report I just took a look at it last week from the water side, and everything looks like it's done. The cleats are in, and it looks like the material that had been stockpiled by the excavator in the area of the moorings has been pulled back to where it belongs right now.
Got it. Thank you. And now, again, Mr. Steadman, could you discuss the proposed amendments to the Connecticut Harbor Management Act?
This is the most significant topic. Last month, the Commission approved a motion to support an amendment to the Harbor Management Act to clarify the authority of the of the Commission to review applications for DEEP permits and to make clear that DEEP must listen to the Harbor Commission's recommendations. A concept bill has been was introduced on Friday by legislator from Greenwich and legislators from Eastern Connecticut. And this was initiated by the mayor of New London, who's most interested in this. At the same time, the Fairfield delegation also introduced a bill on Friday for the same purpose. The bill number that was introduced first is LCO 2629. It's a concept bill called the Harbor Management Act proposal. So now the legislators are going to work together in the drafting part of it with the Fairfield delegation to draft the language, which would be essentially similar to what we tried to get approved, what we introduced last year. I know the Stamford Harbor Commission is approaching their legislators, so is the Norwalk Commission for the purpose of getting co-sponsors to the bill, and then we'll see how this all progresses. But as we talked about it, this is sort of an existential matter because based on that court decision several years ago, there's no legal authority for any harbor commission to review applications for DEEP permits, and there's no need for the DEEP to respond to the Harbor Commission unless they're responding to a recommendation that's spelled out ahead of time in the Harbor Management Plan. So that court decision essentially invalidates all harbor management plans, and it affects the updating of, including what we're doing. So we're hopeful that we can be successful this year. But the concept bills have been introduced, and we can also thank Fairfield's delegation for introducing one, along with the legislators from Eastern Connecticut and a legislator from Greenwich. So I'll just keep everybody up to date as this progresses, and that there may be hearings by the Environment Committee. It's a different leadership of the Environment Committee this year. It's not the same chair. One of the legislators who introduced this concept bill is now the vice chair of the Environment Committee. But again, DEEP's response to this is going to be significant because, as we know, this bill didn't move forward last year out of the Environment Committee because of DEEP's objection to it. So we'll do the best we can, but it affects all of the commissions, and it's probably the most significant thing, in my opinion, that besides the dredging project, that we're working on.
So the harbor management commissions and the harbor management plans in Connecticut could all be replaced with some new mechanism?
No. Because most all of the plans, an aspect of implementation is for the commissions to review and comment on applications requiring DEEP approvals.
Right.
We don't deal with that so much. In Stanford, for example, there's projects all the time that require DEEP approvals. Here we get the occasional application or proposal for a dock or a seawall. But that's a part of every harbor management plan in terms of implementation. The court ruled there's no legal authority for the harbor commissions to do that. And the example we've used the Exide example of why this is important. Because, as we know, when Exide first proposed their remediation plan, we were told that they didn't need any local approvals. We argued that's not correct. We have a harbor management plan. You need to come before the Harbor Management Commission. We need to review it. And that started the 3 or 4 year period of review. But there is a difference between having that as like a voluntary process and a requirement. The court ruled that there is no requirement to do this. And also the court ruled that DEEP doesn't have to listen to the Harbor Commission unless the Commission is responding with a recommendation that's spelled out ahead of time in the plan, which is, of course, an impossible thing to do. So what we're asking for, what the other commissions are asking for, is nothing more than what's always been part of harbor management, and also that we're not asking to supersede or veto state laws, only that DEEP has to listen to the commissions. And the best example that I can give is a big, of course, the Exide was certainly a big project, but in Norwalk with the big railroad bridge project, it's being the replacement of the railroad bridge over the Norwalk River, the $1 billion project. The Harbor Commission reviewed that for 9 years. It went to a public hearing. The Commission again developed thoughtful comments and recommendations. In the hearing officer ruled that the Harbor Commission, pursuant to this court case, the comments of the Harbor Commission have no more weight than the comments of the general public, and she didn't address the Commission's comments, and that's because of that court case. So we'll do the best we can, and hopefully that we'll be successful this year. Because it's hard to logically argue against what we're talking about.
Any further questions?
I have a question, Jeff. And that's, I was looking for some clarification on the plan update and the revision process. We have a plan. This plan is subject to what you were just talking about, but that's what we work off of now. And when I came on the commission 3 years ago, you were involved with a subcommittee that was updating that plan. And then if I recall correctly, we kind of put that on hold because we really had to focus on dredging and the implications of dredging. And so now my question is for some clarification on the plan update process. Is it ongoing? Is that a function of what you're doing? Does there need to be a subcommittee that works with you, or is it still on hold?
Well, I think we can start that process again, but it was put on hold because an essential element of the update of the plan was the plan for dredging. That we can include into the updated plan that the 100-foot wide channel will be maintained, and this sort of, previously DEEP wouldn't allow us to maintain the 100-foot channel. So now that they have, that can be an element, a significant element of the plan. So we can start going back to the update process right now.
Right, so that might require assigning a subcommittee to work with Jeff, unless Jeff works solo on this. I don't know how it's gonna
There
be.
should be a committee, just like there was.
Well, why don't you and I discuss this, and I think Kim is also involved with this, so why don't we get together after this, between this, and we'll figure out what the next steps ought to be.
Thank you.
But I was thinking about the same thing as well. Thank you, John. Thank you. Any further questions on that topic? Okay, moving on, the POCD subcommittee, Mr. Stedman, Mr. Metchik, and I have been working on that. We gave some preliminary recommendations to the town, the zoning, and what more do you know, Jeff?
I've been communicating with members of the TPZ Commission, and they've confirmed that there's a statutorily, is the way the term is, notice period before amendments to the POCD can be adopted. And that according to the statute, once there is a draft for adoption, there's a 65-day notice period for the Board of Selectmen. And there's some other notice periods. So the TP&Z Commission is meeting tonight, but they do not yet have a draft for adoption, is what I've been told. And so once they do, and then there's also the 35-day notice period for the Harbor Management Commission. So I think when that notice period, that formal notice period starts, then the commission would have to make a formal submittal. I don't know if we recall what we submitted. I think we did draft with the understanding that there would be eventually a draft for adoption by the TPZ Commission, and then we would respond in the formal notice period.
So what we submitted to them would be taken into consideration or not, and the final draft would then be presented, and a 65-day notice period would be engaged.
65-day notice is for the Board of Selectmen, I've been told, but there's a 35-day notice period for the Harbor Management Commission. It's in the statute.
At the same time, or?
I don't know how that works, but...
But that's what would happen. Another draft,
Yes.
based upon all the comments they've
Yes.
received,
Yes.
and then the HMC would have its opportunity
Yes.
for 35 days
For
to
the final,
comment.
for its final comments.
Okay, so we'll
So we
stand by.
We have time. I also asked Deep, it's interesting, for any comments on what we've submitted. I shared those with Deep, which was interesting. And Deep's response was that there's nothing inconsistent with what we prepared and inconsistent with the coastal management policies, but they would not endorse what we... They could only respond to what was submitted to them by TPZ. If TPZ was to incorporate our comments and come up with another draft, they would comment on that. But it's interesting, they're not proactive in saying what we did is a good thing and TPZ should consider it. They just didn't have anything, they didn't have anything to say other than there's nothing inconsistent with what you've done in our... So it's interesting that Deep's less than aggressive approach to municipal planning decisions now, but that's just to be expected, I guess.
I believe last Tuesday there was a kind of a working session of TPZ that was not a public hearing, but public could watch as they discussed the POCD. I did not attend that, but the focus of discussion was to try to come further along in their effort to get some consensus. I don't know, I didn't go. Jeff, did you hear anything about what happened at that meeting? And anything, I guess you would have said something if you...
There is no adoption draft, and thus no statutory time frame has yet started. I suspect tonight the TPC will go through the rest of the August draft and ask staff to insert what it believes to be the edits. At a later date, TPC would meet, but they don't have a draft for adoption. This is the information that we're receiving, so the review period hasn't started.
So we've done what we can, provided our comments. We wait for their next draft, and we respond accordingly with a 35-day notice period.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions on that topic? Okay, we then move on to the budget process update. Betty, do you have any update on that, or just?
I have not heard that they need additional information from me.
Okay. Very good. I think the final item under old business, which is not listed here, and I'm not sure we have anything to fully report right now, which would be the refund of the funds provided to us at the for the 2017 SHIPS grant. Jeff, do you have a report for that, or?
Betty and I met with the new town grants administrator, brought him up to speed on all that we're doing, and we have a process. We're gonna complete what we're doing and submit it to the Port Authority. And the grants administrator understands where we are and knows what we're doing. And we have a compilation of the expenses that were paid to Race. Thanks to Betty, we have the invoices and the proof of the town payment. We have a report on the status of what we've done for this whole period of time. So even though we received the grant in 2017, it was only about a year ago that we decided that, that we had to return the money because we were trying to repurpose it. And the Port Authority understands that.
Jeff, in light of the fact that the grants coordinator or administrator is a new position at the town of Fairfield, correct?
Mm-hmm. He's a new employee.
I see.
The position existed prior.
Would it be worthwhile, or is it appropriate for us to pass this to him or her to manage from here, or do we keep that going?
No, we keep it going. So Betty and I have an assignment, and we're going to get the completed information to the new grants person. He's going to draft the letter of transmittal. He doesn't know yet what process will be followed to actually return the money.
Okay.
But we have three, maybe it's more than three. We have the table of Race's expenses. What was that, Betty? Like $20,000+ or thereabouts? It's $20,000+. And we scanned all the records of the payment, which the Port Authority wanted, just to demonstrate that we paid that money. And we also have a report documenting all that we did in our attempt to do the project. That requires a concluding chapter. And then we've agreed that I will also make an attempt to, not make an attempt, I will submit a statement of the monies that were paid to me specific for working on this project. The Port Authority didn't know if they would accept that because I didn't have a contract specific to this work as Race did. But that's one part of what we're doing. So Mr. Riley understands what we're doing, and then we said in a month's time we'll have all the pieces together, and then he can decide how to proceed and whether this needs approval by the Board of Selectmen or the RTM to return the money.
Perfect.
But I don't know if Betty has anything to add to that, or.
No.
So
It had provided us with a lot of information. I forwarded all that to him, so he's happy with everything.
Oh, well, that's
Perfect.
the other thing. We provided all the background, the original grant application, everything we did in the history of the project that was in written form.
Perfect. You want to make sure that we, with the Connecticut Port Authority, do not anger them in any way such that puts future requests or grants in jeopardy.
And that's why we didn't push to repurpose the money against their policy, which they're developing. They haven't done this before.
Right.
But I've also shared with them the status of the dredging project. So there's a new executive director, and I'm hoping that he'll take the time to come down just to view this operation here, which is unique, I think, on the Connecticut coast. They may do that.
Standing on the remnants of the lower wharf.
Yes.
So
that's the other part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Any further questions on that?
Would it be useful for, when you get your report together, for that to be shared with commissioners so that we could see this and be part of this? These expenses and this report that's being prepared has been the subject of a lot of discussion at the commission during my tenure, and just so we can see what it is and why it's taking so long to finalize this, it might be useful to just share it at the next meeting.
I think that was Jeff's intention.
Yeah, we'll try to do that.
Good. And as others may know, The financial director of the Port Authority had been in touch with me a couple of times last year on this matter by phone and by email, and has always been polite and has always understood that we were working on doing this accounting, but has started to express a little bit of concern, a little bit. So I let this person, Viola Haynes, is the financial director, know that I was stepping down as chair, and that Chris would be stepping up, and that she could continue to, of course, dialogue with Jeff and Betty, and that Chris would be involved and looking after this as well. Just to make sure.
What I'll do is I'll contact her and follow up with that. But I think it's really not much to tell them until after we talk at the next meeting, at which point I'll be able to give something more concrete. But I'll begin a dialogue with her.
What I had offered, because what I had offered to her, which she was seemed pleased with, was the goal of completing this exercise, which we talked about for a while, by the end of the first quarter of this year. So there's a time-specific goal that is on the table that I put out there, and she was comfortable with that.
So what was that timetable?
That we would try very hard to complete this procedure, which has been...
The refund?
Yes. We would try to do this by the end of the first quarter of 2025. That was what I offered.
Good. I'll contact her just to level set expectations based upon what we can provide, and we'll get that going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're going to meet her next week.
I was asked to meet with a new executive director to go over not just this, but a number of issues in Connecticut harbors. So a lot is unknown. Who's going to, from the Port Authority, ultimately agree to this, and how the town is going to return the money. But the first step is, by next meeting, have the documentation that the town would be submitting to the Port Authority, not the harbor. Well, I say the town. The Harbor Commission is part of the town, but what office of the town will be submitting this? We don't know yet. Mr. Riley is going to consider that.
Got it. Okay. Any further questions on this topic? Hearing none, we move on to new business, of which we have none that I'm aware of. Jeff?
Is there an old business section, by any chance?
Yep, that was just it. We just completed that. Did I miss something?
Mr. McLaughlin is here from the Carroll family. And, we had, I don't know if it's public comment, but we had talked about, we had discussed this with the first selectman about developing a memorial area for persons who have contributed greatly to Southport Harbor and the community. And three people I can think of right now are Pat, Mary, and Lou Schuler. And we had talked about doing some sort of a design or how a landscape design around the flagpole at the Yacht Yard Town Boatyard area. We haven't proceeded with that yet. And I'm wondering if that's something that we might want to think about, and how we would design that, or how we would proceed with that.
The Yield Yacht Yard is Parks and Rec, right?
Yep.
So we would recommend or comment on some sort of thing that they would be considering?
Or we might consider contributing funds towards the design of it, if a landscape designer is an appropriate way to proceed. But I think, we talked about it with the first selectman's office that seemed supportive, Ms. Carpenter, but we haven't followed up on that since then. And I think this would be really a good thing to do. But we don't have the expertise to do that landscape design around the flagpole. So I don't know what the commission's feeling is, and what the cost would be. I mean, we could talk about this with Parks and Rec, and whether we need to get the first selectman's. I believe the first selectman's office would be agreeable to it. They were at the meeting that we had. But that's why Mr. McLaughlin wanted to come to the meeting tonight to see if we can make some progress on that.
the question. Does anyone know if there is a town employee that has landscape design expertise and responsibility, for the town?
I haven't heard of that before, and I know that well, I've heard of that before.
So it's all, as far as we know, kind of ad hoc.
I think maybe next, we can contact the first selectman's office again and see how they would like to proceed with this.
So that's what I'm thinking is I'm not sure whether this results in a Harbor Management Commission vote to support and then even fund something like this until we know more what it would be. So I think the dialogue with the first selectman as well as TPZ would be in order at this point. So why don't I take that on to speak to both of them, okay?
And Jennifer Carpenter's in the meeting, I think she would be our contact for that.
So you're gonna contact Parks and Rec and Jen?
Yes. So this is a monument around the flagpole at Yacht Yard for Patrick Carroll, Lou Schuler.
And others that could be added.
And others.
It was even Brian that maybe had the idea of like a compass, but that's why we needed, a designer that we could look and see what's been done elsewhere. But there would be like a memorial ring, if that's what we would call it, or
a memorial for, yeah. Okay, I mean, so it needs to get some more definition in order to really kind of move it forward. But I mean, you think of the memorial garden at a church or at Pequot Yacht Club around a big anchor in the green there is a bunch of plaques for those people who are left there. Things like that. I mean, I get it, and I think it's a great concept that needs more definition to move it to the next step.
Thank you.
There is a larger version of what you're both talking about, of course, in front of Old Town Hall, and that's to veterans.
Right.
A much larger group.
Yeah.
But it's recognition. It's
a memorial. Okay. I mean, there's memorials like this all over town. On Greenfield Hill, I mean, all of us who go dog walking see these memorials everywhere. I mean, we're for different purposes. Okay.
But we're just recommending that the town do something, not necessarily us, right? Because it's town park and recs.
If I'm not sure where Parks and Recs would fit on this. I mean, we might decide that we want to urge it on in some way with an offer to fund or an offer to support it in some manner. If Parks and Rec is less than willing to move forward, I don't know. But I think the dialogue should begin such that we move it to a place where we're all comfortable with. I'll get that information and bring it back to this body.
it just occurred to me at South Benson Marina, there's a small memorial to the former fire chief, Russell, who was also active in marine rescue and things like that. And there is also, there's a lot of memorials, maybe more than some would like at South Benson, but there's also the sidewalk where at one point you could buy bricks. There was a commemorative sidewalk recognizing different people as well that were active at South Benson. So there are other...
They're everywhere. If you go to the golf course, every hole has a memorial to someone. Yeah.
Yeah, there's...
I mean, it would dilute the honor that we're hoping to give to fob it off to another memorial that's existing and add it to. Yet it also is just one more memorial that, I don't know, I mean, and then you have a decision who would be included into this memorial and who wouldn't be, for example. So it's complicated. Again, I'll make those contacts and I'll come back with some information at the next meeting as we get it. Thank you. Any further questions or dialogue? So moving on to new business. We have no new business to talk about at the moment. No new applications.
Correct. Not that I'm aware of. I didn't receive anything. The only thing I have for you is I have the current
Oh,
contact list.
thank you. Yes, yeah.
So I did print many of them. I'm thinking now maybe I should, because we don't have everyone here, I can email everybody and say, ask them if there have been any changes.
Right, the idea was that we had it, a year ago, and, if there's any changes to the names or the contacts on here, why don't you email? That would probably be the best way to approach it.
Did you want?
Does anybody want a copy?
Want a copy of the current contact list?
I have mine right here, but. Is there any public comment beyond what we've already had? Hearing none, yeah.
Can I count as public comment just for a second?
Yeah.
And Kim gave a wonderful report on the status of the dredging project, and I'd just like to echo that the people working on this, they're all Corps of Engineers employees. They're very skilled and they're working constantly. They're not working a little bit and taking a rest, or they're not taking it seriously. It's a very impressive effort that they're involved with, and the choreographing of the excavation with the two excavators together and the stockpiles on the outside of the excavators and the swinging of the arms, from outside to the middle so as not to conflict. It's really an impressive operation. And I think the federal government, gets a lot of criticism, but the way they're doing this is very, very skilled and very efficient. And there are visitors from other Corps of Engineers districts who are looking at this to see how it's done. For example, there was someone today from the New York district of the Corps of Engineers that was visiting, because they would like to use the same methods in the New York district. So it's not finished yet, but so far it's been a very impressive effort. And when we're finished with this and we create the historical record, I think it would be quite impressive.
Agreed. It's sort of the template for the best practices in getting this sort of thing done.
Yes.
Well done. Well done to all of you. Thank you very much.
When it might be, if you haven't done it already, if you Google Dredge Murden 2024, just put those 3 words in, you will see all the other places that Dredge Murden has been to, from North Carolina, the Jersey Shore, Chatham, Massachusetts, and up. It's been working and doing this thing, and the communities along that geography have been sharing the same kinds of kudos and the same kinds of appreciation that we are. So it's a massive undertaking that they're involved with, trying to keep these harbors safe up and down the coast.
Indeed.
And the evidence that I saw just online of news stories, statements from different towns, and statements from the Corps are all very inspiring.
Indeed. Any further public comments? Hearing none, I'll welcome a motion to adjourn.
I would move that we adjourn this meeting.
Seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All those on the phone, and good evening. Thank you very much for attending.